course, Drive to Survive. I know people have a ways of feeling about that, but I could care less because it gave me an insight to a world that I was not familiar with. I do not get starstruck. I do not get overwhelmed in situations like this. But at that moment, all of the air left my body. What conversation do you have while you being, doing 360s on a track? What do you say? What do you ask? How do you feel? Like, no, I just keep it moving. Just enjoy the moment.
Everything you want in life, you're gonna have to work 10 times harder for it, no matter what, and nothing's gonna be given to you.
I don't think I know anybody else who would fill that role, wholeheartedly, open-minded, and really get someone going throughout the day.
I think Georgina's gonna have to, start upping my payments of Ben and Jerry's ice
Oh,
cream to get. Yo, welcome to the Stripping the Dipping podcast. You're joined by usual co-host, just a normal guy from North London, AMG Denz. And today I've got a really special star guest. Actually, fun fact, I actually named my recent car over this person. Technically, they're the godmother of my new Mercedes, which is pretty cool, So without any other further clues, she's really amazing. She's the founder of a very successful and prominent Team LH NYC page. It's the one, it's the only Crystal Brooklyn. Crystal, firstly, how are you doing? We're so
hi
excited to have you on
guys.
today's episode.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. That was very sweet intro.
Oh, anytime, Crystal, honestly, anything for you. We're so happy and, delighted to have you on the show because we've been cooking this up for quite some time. But, I think it's probably the perfect timing because there's so many things that's happened like in the last 8 months and, really a lot
Crazy.
to unpack as well. So, yeah, you recently had a trip to the Circuit of the Americas, which we're going to unpack a bit later too. But
Yep.
first of all, Crystal, as we do with all of the special guests, where did your love of F1 begin? What ignited your interest in following the sport? And what were your initial thoughts of Sir Lewis Hamilton, the GOAT?
So my love of F1 actually started with my husband would watch it.
Mhm.
And I never really, I knew of Lewis, but I never got into the sport. It wasn't something I understood 100%. And I think it was around, for me, I guess you can consider me a newborn into the sport. So it was around the time of COVID. That's when I actually started to really get into it. And I instantly started to obsess over it. I was going back watching old races through F1 TV, watching as much as I could. I think it was on my screen 24/7. It was just race after race. I would ask people, like, what's one of your favorite races? What can I watch? What interests you about this? And then also, of course, Drive to Survive. I know people have a ways of feeling about that, but I could care less because it gave me an insight to a world that I was not familiar with at all. Even though it's not 100% accurate, it gave me enough insight to understand what happens behind the scenes. And of course, I made my own assessment from there. And Lewis himself, oh, come on.
Oh, we
Oh,
have the entire world today, Crystal. If it's in relation to that, of course.
yeah, nah, but Lewis captured my interest, one, as being the only Black F1 driver ever. And he's just incredible. He's an incredible human. He's truly, truly the GOAT. And everything that he's accomplished, both, I'm totally here for it. It's just such an amazing thing to witness. And I'm sad a bit that I'm joining the end of it all. That's how I feel. I feel like I'm late to the game, and people such as yourself and others who have been watching F1 forever or raised on it, I feel you guys are so lucky to have witnessed it all without having to go back and rewind and watch it.
Oh, Crystal, honestly, don't don't make it seem like that, man. Like, honestly, like if you tune into Lewis today, tomorrow, 10 years ago, 10 years into the future, he's still gonna be so relevant, I feel, in terms of the trend-setting mindset that he has with the sport, what he's achieved in terms of his accomplishments. You mentioned as well that he's not only just like a racing driver, but to a lot of people, he's a symbol of philanthropy in terms of the charity work he does. He's a great individual in terms of veganism and looking at world causes and trying to give a platform and a voice to things that don't normally get the time of day. but also as well, like you mentioned too, I think tuning in, and actually I kind of envy you in a way, Crystal, because the time you tuned in to watch Lewis is probably the most this amazing time. You know, he was beating all of those records and that awesome W11, and even the
Oh
significance of that.
my
It
God.
was, you know, that
Yeah.
car that had like the black livery, and you know it was kind of a stance against, you know, diversity, and you know, racing against you know, all the kind of discrimination that we see in all different parts of the world. And Lewis is really vocal that year. You know, there's many
Yeah.
drivers that, you know, sit behind a salary or sit behind a helmet and they just turn up on the day, do a job, and then they just disappear into the ether. But for Lewis, he took that responsibility because he knows that his position is one of a very rare circumstance that only comes through years of hard work, dedication, pain, suffering, challenges and obstacles, of course, you know. And he was so vocal about, you know, the Breonna Taylor situation, the George Floyd
Hmm.
movement as well, the Black Lives Matter movement. There's
Yeah.
so many kind of things, even in that season when he was absolutely smoking everybody, you know, like a toasted panini. He still kind of had that kind of like foresight, you know, the greater
Yeah.
cause, and this how he could reach out to, you know, the next future generation of kids. And I will never forget that drive in Turkey, for example, where he crossed the line and the first thing he said was, you know, this is for all the kids out there. You know, if I
Yeah.
can do it, you can do it 110%. And that's just kind of the one of like millions of things I guess you could talk about when it comes to Lewis, and just how awesome he is as a person, an athlete, you know, just an inspiring individual altogether.
Absolutely. And it's funny because, well, it's not just for the kids. You have grown adults who are inspired by him on a daily basis. And you can just listen to everything that he says and it feels like it's coming from the heart. And like you said, 2020 was a really tough year for a lot of people. And he didn't have to do what he did. He didn't have to, take criticism and take a risk and just, there was a lot of hatred out there. There was a lot of people who just said, just go drive. And he's bigger than that. And that respect is just such an amount of respect that grew out of what he sees for others outside of himself. That's where the love for Lewis grew into from me.
Ah, absolutely, Crystal. And actually, I think what's a great segue, the perfect segue, I want to say, is Team LH NYC, you know, like, so to just give these, like, you know, amazing listeners just an insight, Crystal, I'm gonna give you the floor as well. This is an amazing account with some compilations, interviews, exclusive behind the scenes content about the legend himself. You know, and what I wanted to just ask you, Crystal, you know, is like, what was the inspiration behind creating the account? And also, how do you go about, you know, like creating these videos and putting them together and picking out these
Mhm.
moments, whether it's high or whether it's even low this year with the performance of the car? Like, you know, it's really interesting just to see your kind of eye for detail and also the creative direction you take with a lot of the content you make for the channel.
I appreciate that. So honestly, the channel grew and the page itself grew from me not wanting to bombard people on my personal page about everything Lewis, because during the 2021 season, I was just so enraptured with everything that happened. It was such an exciting season. And my personal page, I would always post, and not a lot of people, not a lot of my friends followed Formula One or even understood what it was about. And they just thought, oh, okay, you like this guy. No, I don't like the guy. I love the sport and I love what he does. I love everything that he stands for, etc. So I felt like I needed to create like a personal outlet for myself, combining both one, the love of music. I love hip hop music. So the love of music and also just everything Lewis. And I never set out to create a page that was really for others. It was for myself at first. And around AD, after AD happened, and there was like this lull in time where people just didn't know what was happening, if he was going to return to sport. It was just my personal diary, my personal creative outlet that I created. And then you get one follower, two followers. I'm like, okay, somebody's watching this. Then I remember when I had like 100 followers, I'm like, okay, this is pretty interesting. And even though it's not something that was initially created with thought of others, I have met so many amazing people from creating this page and putting out work that means something to me. And the work itself is just a representation. Now it's transformed into something very specific about whether it's him on track, whether it's like you said, the highs and the lows. And a lot of times I interact a lot within stories. And people really DM me behind the stories and behind the scenes, and we talk daily. It's a really interesting thing that was created out of just the love of Lewis and just needing an outlet to post. And I'm enjoying every minute of it. Creating the videos themselves, um, I find it's interesting to create the videos because there are so many fan pages, right? There's so many supporter pages. Everyone has access to the same photos. Everyone has access to the same videos. And at the end of the day, how do you stand out? What makes it yours? What makes it mine is that I pick the music that means something to me, whether it's his fashion or whether it's just him arriving to the track, or it could be an interview or a moment that happened um, throughout the day, throughout the weekend, I should say, of the races. So that's pretty much how it started, and I don't really have a proper way of putting it out there saying that it was created to represent New York City. And it was really just created for a creative outlet. And it's something that I'm very proud of. And I try to keep up on a daily basis outside of my things that I do in real life.
Oh, Crystal, I think that was like a perfect summary of just how amazing the channel is. Also, the kind of direction you've taken creatively as well, with taking up the kind of like different moments of his career, and also just seeing Lewis's development as a person too. From when he was younger at McLaren to his kind of stages with Mercedes, and like basically helping them rebuild. All through the success and even some of the hardships that he has now, and like you mentioned too, the fashion, the kind of innovative side of him as well when it comes to his investment, in some businesses that he's taking part in these days as well. He recently
Mhm.
was involved in like a trip back to Africa too, discovering his roots. And the
Oh,
way that you do it as well, Crystal, like I have to say, it's really, really outstanding. And I think you deserve a lot more recognition for it as well, Crystal. And I implore all of our listeners to go and check it out at the end of this episode too, because I'm just clearing my throat now as well, actually. Not because I'm getting too emotional, save that for a bit later. But genuinely, I was thinking about the channel, Crystal, and I was like, our kids are growing up in a time where it's a very transitionary period of the world. And, lots of people of color are kind of going through the hardships of like trying to find their feet, maybe in places where they've never been accepted before. And then, of
mhm.
course, you get like a generational talent like Lewis that's a trendsetter and one that breaks that barrier down. And in a sense of that too, with him being such a exemplary individual, what I also love about your work, Crystal, is that it's a great archive, for new fans, old fans, any fans, to go, to look back, to experience, to reserve those very pertinent and special moments in the history of his career, on and off the track as well. And for the future generation of kids too, I think it will be amazing because they can go to the channel and they can have a source of, like a one-stop shop to find inspiration and to build knowledge and things they might not have had before.
Oh gosh, that's so good, Denz. You make it sound you make it sound so amazing. I'm like, really?
It is.
But
It
it's true. It
is.
No, it is amazing. It's amazing to me, and to me it's like when you see people, because first of all, I don't my thing is I'm an event producer in my day-to-day life. So to do videos, this is not something that, I personally went out and said I'm going to learn how to do videos. This is all, it grew out of just wanting things to be done, or just that creative outlet. And it's such a part of me now that no matter where I'm at, I'm always trying my best to see like what's out there. Like today, it's media day. Lewis is going to make his fashion introduction, and I've learned a lot by also running the channel, and running the page when it comes to fashion, etc. And I always give props to other people. I love photography. That's always been my first love, along with music. So it's a lot of interaction. I've learned and connected with a lot of great F1 photographers. Then you have people who run their own fashion page, like Amazing Lou Rashi. And I learn a lot of what Lewis is wearing, not just from what he puts out, but also what she posts. And then I tag other designers, etc. And it's a lot of interaction that happens from it. And it's just such a great community that's grown from just trying to create an outlet for myself.
Absolutely, Crystal. And I think, like you said too, it's like we're a family, and we're going to touch on some really awesome individuals from our community a bit later in this podcast too. But you're right, the ability of Lewis and his input in the sport, his stake in the sport, and what it's done just for our daily lives too. I mean, I was having this conversation with my girlfriend the other day and just saying like how amazing sports sometimes can change your mood, and how one
Hmm.
individual or a team, when you follow them and you go through the highs, you go through the lows, it can just change like your outlook on life. It can change almost your response and how you apply yourself, and there's so much you can learn from that too. So it's so true in what you say in terms of how we consume the content, as well as like just amazing followers and fans of the work that you do, but also kind of like looking at all the different things he does as well, and especially his fashion. He's just
Yeah.
up there with just being one of the most amazing people of all time. And on a topical which, Crystal, I wanted to then turn the show to a very awesome interaction you had earlier this year. So, just for our listeners, Crystal had a pretty life-changing interaction because basically you had a really heartfelt experience earlier this year when you actually
Yeah.
got to meet Sir Lewis Hamilton in person as he was
Yeah.
making an appearance, a TV appearance for Good Morning America.
Yeah.
And he literally took his time, he stopped, he had a conversation with you. He even complimented your hair. Like, I'm so jealous that he complimented your hair. Like, no one compliments my hair in the same way. But no,
Ah,
jokes aside, like, like he actually had that interaction with you in that moment. I could feel even just from like the screen on the other side was just so warm and so interactive. But also,
yeah.
just like Crystal, give us your kind of take on that as to how this experience came about. What was it
Yeah.
like? What did he actually say to you as well for the people that haven't seen it? It's such an amazing thing, and like I'd love to hear your perspective and side of it.
Yeah, so I knew he was in New York, obviously, because someone is always posting his every move. We knew he was in New York. And like the day before, I was not far off from where he is. And I'm just like, oh, I wonder if he's, running or whatever the case was. And that wasn't the case. I'm like, it wasn't meant to be. So I somehow don't remember exactly where I saw it that he was going to be on Good Morning America, and I had something to do in the city that morning anyway. And I'm like, you know what? I am going to, and I don't do this, this is not something that you typically do. I'm like, I'm going to go out and see if I can see him. And in my head, I'm thinking there's going to be hundreds of people waiting outside. There's going to be all of these people waiting. I'm like, I need to find a way that he'll see me. Maybe I'll bring my flag with me, whatever the case was. But I woke up the next morning, the morning of, I think it was then that Monday. And I woke up, went to the studio, took a Uber, go to the studio like 5:30 in the morning, just in case. I have no idea what time taping starts, nothing. And I'm like, I'll just wait it out. And I'll talk to anybody. So I made conversation with security, and they're like, yeah, I think he comes around, or he's going to come around 7-ish. But there was no one there. It was just me, just me. And of course, this is the one day that the heavens decides it's going to open up. And it rained endlessly. It was just a thunderstorm. It was pouring down rain. I'm like, no matter what, I'm going to stick this through. I'm going to wait for Lewis. And then I met another person who runs a channel, and she's like, it was just me and her for maybe about an hour or so, and we had a good conversation. She runs an amazing channel as well, on Instagram as well as TikTok and other places. And so it was just us, and I'm like, this man is really gonna come, and there's no way he can't see us. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be cool about it. I'm gonna be cool about it. In my head, Denz, I had so many things that I wanted to say. I thought I had it down packed, how much I respect him, how much I love the work he does with like Mission 44, etc. I was so ready. And every time there was a black car that pulled up, we're like, oh, is this him? Is this him? No feelings whatsoever. I'm like, I'm ready. He's gonna come. I'm gonna yell, because this is why my voice sounds the way it does, because I yell a lot, especially with that coda, and I'll give that breakdown. But I'm not gonna yell. He's gonna see me. He's gonna say hi. I got my purple hat ready to go. I must have dropped my purple hat that morning at least 5 times in the rain, but it was whatever. I was like, it's gonna be messed up, but I want him to sign it. We're ready. And I have my favorite magazine cover that he did from Wired. It was like the all yellow. That's my absolute favorite. One of my absolute favorite images of him. So I was like, I need to have this signed too. So here comes the car. And the part that no one that I didn't share is like when he's pulling up to the studio, Aurora goes, that's him. And I'm like, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. This is not it. This is not the, I wasn't, all of a sudden I'm not ready. And the man steps out of the car, and I think I squealed. I have to go back and look at and first thing out my mouth is like, oh my God, please could you sign? And he does his, how you guys doing? And I felt so overwhelmed at the moment. Like the
Mhm.
breath that I had completely left my body. I do not get like that. I do not get starstruck. I do not get overwhelmed in situations like this. But at that moment, all of the air left my body. And I think, I don't even remember at that point exactly what happened until other people was like, oh, he said he liked your hair or whatever the case was. And it was just such an amazing moment that there was a moment where you feel his energy and you feel his aura, if that doesn't sound too corny, but it's really true. You really feel he's so calm. He's calm, and it makes you calm. So that's when I turn around and, like, I'm Team LH NYC. And he goes, oh, I like that. I think he touched my jacket. I don't know. I was frozen anyway. He
Mhm.
goes down and takes pictures with other people, and then he comes back and still takes another picture. And I low key died. I low key died that day. I I don't think I was in shock, Dennis. I can't explain to you how I felt. I went for a walk to, like, this juice shop. I love this Joda juice. And I sat, and I don't think a lot of people know this. I sat at that shop for about 3 hours. I just drank a green juice, staring. I had a meeting. I had all these other things that completely got eliminated. Like, did that just happen? Did this man literally not just sign my purple hat, take a picture with me? He touched my jacket. He said, I like your hair. And it was just the greatest day of all times. And when he came back out, and I forgot to say, when he came back out, I did wait for him to, I guess, finish his Good Morning America interview. He came back out. That's when he signed my magazine. And there were a few other people there that came at that time. But it was it was such an amazing moment. I was in shock completely that it happened because it was completely unplanned. When you say I'm gonna go do something, I'm typically the kind of person to say if I'm gonna do it, I'll go and do it.
Mhm.
And that morning or the night before, I was like, I'll go do it. I'll see if he's there. And the fact that there was just so few people waiting, it was such a personal thing, and it meant a lot to me. It really did, and it just solidified that I read people's energy. I feel energy. I can tell if someone's genuine, and his energy was so real but so calming at the same time. And he really cares for his fans, his
Oh,
supporters, I like to say.
absolutely, Kristen. And again, big shout out to you because I know you're giving Lewis the credit there, which we'll touch on too. But you as well, I think it was just God's plan that day because the dedication alone, Crystal. You mentioned, like having to get up, get there for 5:30, and I've got family in Brooklyn as well, so I know those Brooklyn days can be really
Yeah.
cold. But the
Oh, yeah.
dedication to get there, to just be there, and there might have been the thing that there wasn't an opportunity to see him, or he went through the back door and you didn't get the opportunity to actually make it
Yeah.
happen. And to actually get that opportunity, that moment in time, you fully deserve it. And I can't think of anyone more deserving of it than you to kind of have that experience, that one to one. And what I like as well is just how just like so candidly the camera catches it too, and you can see Lewis smiling, and just the way he looks at you. He genuine. If you
Yeah.
look at the video, Chris, he
Come
genuinely
on now.
looks at you. He looks at you. He literally like he reads you for a second, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god!" And like the accent. Well, he's got that accent now. It's like,
Yeah.
"Ah, how you doing?" It's like, "Your hair is so nice." I'm like, "Wow,
Yeah.
just wow." Just, so I could only imagine just for you as well, just how like honestly, all the skins on my hair, hairs on my body, even that makes sense, would have probably been standing up. But wow, that's just remarkable, Crystal. And
Yeah.
like I mentioned, if there was anybody in the world I could think of to have an experience like that, I'd want it to be you because you fully deserve it. And I think only you could retell that story in such a way that's so vivid and so kind of like it almost makes me think I was there.
Oh, I appreciate that. It was special. I think for the most part, it, like I said, it just, if there was a way to add to the admiration and add to all of the feelings that existed prior. That was it. And it skyrocketed my entire vibe and my feelings for um, everything this man stands for times 100. Because he didn't have to. He could have walked directly into the studio, but he saw us and he kind of made a turn because the security was trying to like guide him into the studio, but he kind of made a turn and came directly at us. And he didn't have to. He didn't have to. And he did it again when he came back out. He didn't have to. And I appreciate that wholeheartedly.
Oh, absolutely. Like just the way you mentioned it as well, Crystal. And that's the thing with Lewis and being like a fan of his too. It's like it's not like just being a fan. It's like we're a family in that regard. And it's just so warm and amazing as well that even for him, like a mega star of his caliber, like he's making time for people like us and still having interactions and still kind of like, remembering his roots in that regard too. Because he'll probably even himself talk about his days growing up in Stevenage and being with
Yeah.
his dad and sometimes walking on the street and getting racially abused by people and all of those
Yeah.
things. People underestimate how character building they are for somebody. And in a sense, when you see people taking the time out of their day, people have work, people have kids to look after, and for him to kind of like sit there and take that in and process that, like you mentioned, it's just a testament to the great individual he is and just how like undividing he is with his time and attention and respect to his followers and everyone as well.
And sometimes I'm very much into feeling that people are human, regardless of
Mhm.
celebrity. That's irrelevant to me. You're human first across the
Sure.
board. And I can only imagine how much of his own energy or any celebrity's energy, because, I've kind of been around a few, but it's like in that world, they have to give so much of themselves and to still find that balance. That's not an easy thing to do, on a daily basis. And so that's why those moments I truly, truly appreciate 10 times over. So you have to protect your energy, regardless of, who you are, where you with. But he definitely has an aura. Definitely.
Oh, I definitely feel that way too, Crystal. And it translates in such a kind of clear and vivid way too. Like it's incredible, and like we'll touch on those things a bit more as well. But what we'll also do for the next segment, Crystal, as we always do with our special VIP guests, we put that in there too. We'll do an
Mhm.
interactive segment. So for our listeners as well, if you're tuning in for the first time, essentially we're gonna ask Crystal like a bunch of questions where she's gonna have to pick just drivers from the current F1 grid, and obviously if she picks them, she can't reuse them for any of the other further questions later down the line. So you kind of have to pick a bit strategically. But yeah, it's always interesting to see what people come up with, the reasons and rationales behind them, and genuinely some of these questions as well, as you'll probably see quite shortly, Crystal. They're
Mhm.
interesting. You really have to think twice before you go for them. So
Okay.
without further ado, Crystal, we'll go for the first one. Let's set the scene. So, like Crystal, we know that you do the amazing work, obviously, with the Team LH NYC page, and like imagine you're gonna go to the next Grand Prix in Mexico, believe it or not, Mexico,
Mhm.
and essentially whilst you're there, you're gonna meet up with Lewis's team. I'm not gonna say Lewis. I'm just gonna say his team of people, his entourage,
Yep.
and to get there, you're gonna have to pick a taxi. You're gonna have to take a taxi to get there whilst you're in town, enjoying the life in Mexico, you're gonna have dinner as well. And whilst you're having dinner, there's somebody you have to absolutely avoid, like Max Verstappen at turn 3 at Brazil. You just have to completely just straight line them. Like you don't even want to see them. You just side eye them and dip like chicken nuggets in sauce. So let me ask you
Mm-mm.
this, Crystal. Like, who would you pick as your taxi, dinner, and avoid in terms of the current grid of F1 drivers? Bear in mind, if you pick a driver, you can't use them again for any of the other series of interactive questions we have.
Okay. So taxi is the one who's driving me there, and they have to get there fast.
So you're not
Let's
going to pick
see.
Latifi because, I value you,
Well,
Crystal, and I want you
see,
to
how
be
do you
around for a really
know?
long time.
How do you know I was gonna give him a fair shot, and we may not make it. No, I'm just joking. No, I definitely wouldn't pick Latifi. I would pick Sebastian.
Good, 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 good. And why Sebastian of all the drivers?
I would trust him. I would trust
Mhm.
him to get me there in time. I am an avid Uber rider, and I know a vibe of a new driver versus someone who is confident behind the wheel. And I do feel that Seb is confident behind the wheel, and he's been there forever and a day. And I trust him to get me where I need to on time.
Yeah, I think that's a great choice. And you know what, as well, Crystal, I'll ask you this as a side question. You know, when I jump into Uber sometimes, I kind of feel like sorry for them because it's like they're in a car with a complete stranger and it's their job to just drive the stranger about. So I just
Yeah,
try and make small talk with them. Imagine
yeah,
having a conversation with like Sebastian Vettel because he's so just like Lewis in that sense too. He's really clued up on a lot of things going on around the world, human
yeah.
rights issues, like sustainability of the
Environment.
planet. How
Yep.
interesting would it be to actually have a taxi drive with him?
I think it would be great, and I actually do. I feel the same way about Uber drivers. I do tend to have small conversations with them as well, just to get to know what do you do, because you'll find out a lot of drivers do things amazing outside of just being the Uber driver. They have a whole life outside of that, and you find out so much. So I think talking to Seb would be really interesting as well.
I could imagine it would be amazing. And kind of bringing it back to the questions then. So you've picked Seb as your taxi driver. So who are you gonna have dinner with then? And bear in mind, you could only pick this person once. So
What kind of dinner is this? A business dinner?
um I would say it's a mix, they're really invested, obviously, in the work that you do with the channel on Instagram, but also
Uh,
just like a social kind of moment too, just to catch up, and to chop it up and to just like catch up and have a really cool time.
I want to say Lewis, but I have a feeling that something's gonna come down the line later, so I'll save him. I would have dinner with Pierre.
Ooh, Mr. Gasly.
The guy
Nice.
would have dinner with Gasly. Absolutely.
Okay, and what made you pick Gasly?
I like him.
That's the easier answer. But
Point
also,
blank,
how
no,
do
I like him. Yeah.
you he's amazing. And again, like, we're talking about social media too. He's one of those drivers that actually engages with it a lot, and you see him poking fun at other drivers, or he is on that kind of whole like by Pierre Gasly meme as well that seemed to storm the internet. He's such a
He's
cool guy. And
interactive. He's interactive, and I appreciate that. So I think for a dinner, I would hope that somebody who can have and hold the conversation throughout the night would be good. So I think it would be Pierre. I do have a backup if Pierre's doesn't work. So
okay, well, we might come to that one soon. But then,
No,
Crystal, out of
it's all a lie, man. She's choosing Pierre because he's the president of Team Freaking LH.
there you go. That part too. That part too. No,
I like the rationale there.
okay. So I'm
Right.
having dinner with Pierre. I'll stick with it.
Oh, okay. So we'll lock Pierre in then, and then for your avoid, who are you avoiding? Who are you gonna try and like dodge, like Dodge
Fernando.
Queen?
There's no
Oh,
question.
Saltfish
Right.
Patty Alonso.
Ah,
Jeez.
salty. Salty, born salty. Yeah, I'll pass on him. I don't have any desire whatsoever to uh to be in his presence. Yeah, I'm good.
Ex- Yeah, and I agree with you as well on that one, Crystal. I think a lot of people would too. And you know what's funny with the Alonso thing too, Crystal? Let me bust a quick joke whilst we're here too. How can my guy say that Lewis needs to be looking in his mirrors in Spa, but he's the same guy that didn't have any mirrors after he completely ran into the back of Lance Stroll? Like, you see how
Yeah,
karma works when you put out certain energy and you talk on the goat.
exactly. Exactly. Karma's
So
real.
it really is, and whatever energy you put out there, you always get it back in return too. So you got to be really careful about how you choose to put it out there.
Agreed. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's an interesting trio then. So we'll move on to the next one. This one, thankfully, is not necessarily one where you have to pick a driver, but just a hypothetical. So
Okay.
imagine this, Crystal. You're at the Mexican Grand Prix. Somehow, I can't explain it to you. Miraculously, the Australian honey badger, Daniel Ricciardo, has managed to get a race win at Mexico. Ooh, things that could probably happen. I don't know if like George Russell crashed into,
Oh
half the
no,
grid, maybe.
no,
just, I'm just playing. George is cool. He's one of the homies. But maybe Max Verstappen, maybe his engine blew up in Mexico. That'd be beautiful as well. I'd love that. You know. But yeah, let's just say Daniel Ricciardo wins the race. He does his signature shoey celebration. The really strange one where he puts the champagne inside the shoe and then he makes people drink it because he's weird like that.
Mhm.
So, Crystal, the hypothetical is this: doing a shoey from Daniel Ricciardo's boot, or getting a lecture from Dr. Helmut Marko, the most
Oh,
ignorant, kind of like belligerent, grumpy old man that there probably is in the entire F1 business. And
what
listen
is
to
the
this as well, Crystal.
Go
You,
ahead.
you have to basically, if you pick Helmut Marko, you have to listen to him lecture you every
No,
single day of your life.
listen, this is not fair because you've officially gone. The one of the most disgusting things ever I find is the concept of the shoey. Um, from someone's sweaty foot. I almost cursed real quick, but yeah, that's not it. And I don't know if I could listen to anything from Helmet. So there has to be a third choice.
Crystal, it's a cold world. You're gonna have to pick one. I mean, thankfully, I'm praying that, with the limited amount of races that Daniel Ricciardo has left, and just like with us not really associating with that energy drinks company, you will never be in a position where you have to do either. But if you had to
Yeah.
pick one, which one would you more
Okay.
lean towards?
If I have to, absolutely must. As much as I'm shivering at the thought, I probably would go with the shoey. I don't know. I know for a fact, I know me well enough that I would not be able to stand or be around or listen to Helmet. That's not working. So it's
Yeah,
gonna.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair, Kristen. I think even for me as well, I'd be in the same boat too. Like at least with the shoey, it's a one-off thing, and actually you could see the great, even though it's kind of like a kind of like I guess it's kind of like a sticky one, but for a greater good
Yeah.
situation. Like
Mhm.
Helmut Marko, there's just nothing positive that comes out of that whatsoever. It's just a grumpy kind of negative guy with loads of kind of backwards thoughts talking into
Yeah.
your ear for the rest of your life.
I'm not
I
here
don't
for that. Yeah, not at all.
I don't think anybody needs that energy in their life. So that's a fair one. Okay, next one, Crystal. So I'm gonna set the scene. So imagine you can have a hot lap with any driver of your choice
Yep.
at any circuit of your choice and in
Yep.
any car of your choice as well. Which
Wow. Okay.
driver, circuit, and car would you pick to have your hot lap experience in?
Okay. That's easy. So I'm I don't know what else is coming after this, but I would love, love, love to do a hot lap with Lewis. I would love to do at I do love Austin, but I would also take Silverstone and give me the W11.
Ooh,
Well, yeah,
crispy.
do a hot lap. Can you do a hot lap in a W11? Wow, yeah.
I will make a two. We'll make a two-seater version. Why not?
I'm like, that's not gonna work. It could work, but can't say how. But yeah, that's my choice. I would definitely want to do a hot lap with Lewis.
I think that's a great choice, Crystal. And talking about that as well, it's just Lewis is so cool when it comes to things like that because I think even in the UK, there's like a Mercedes Benz program they have for some of the customers where Lewis will come and like surprise them and give them like a hot lap around the little test circuit they have. And there's this
Yeah.
really infamous clip. I'll send it to you afterwards after we're done recording of these like Romanian. I think they're Eastern European. They've come over to the UK just on this experience thing, and like Lewis is having a full-on conversation with him whilst drifting the C63 AMG around the circuit. I'm like, wait, how does my guy have the drivability to drive like a 600 like horsepower rear-wheel drive car around a test circuit where there are walls either side and have a full-on kind of like intellectual conversation with two
Like nothing.
complete strangers at the same time? Like
Like
it's
nothing.
just
A skill.
honestly, it's just a testament to the man's magic and what he can do behind the wheel of a car as well. And could you imagine? I mean, if you had a hot lap with Lewis, then what would you ask him, or would you just be completely just in awe and like just be screaming the
Um,
entire way through the lap?
well, yes, I would probably be screaming, but I don't know if I would even want to have a conversation at that point because I want to take it all in. I want to
Mhm.
see from, from his perspective, that drive, that's insane. I trust him, and explicitly behind the car, and I know it would be one of the greatest moments ever. So I don't know what I would even say. Like, what conversation do you have while you being, doing 360s on a track? What do you say? What do you ask? How do you feel? Like, no, I just keep it moving. Just enjoy the moment. I think that's what I would do.
I agree with you 100% there, Crystal. And it's so true. It's just like in a moment like that, this the thrill, the speed, this the precision, and watching him kind of do his stuff behind the wheel as well. It'd be incredible, and it's one of those like you can never kind of like replicate it. It's just one of a kind of thing. So, absolutely, some great choices there. And actually, that brings us on to another interactive question. So you're gonna have to pick another driver for this too.
Mm-mm.
Which driver on the grid is most likely to get arrested and why?
Yuki, I'd
Oh
give it to Yuki.
gosh.
He
Oh
doesn't
dear.
have like no barometer for chill. He's just always on edge constantly. So I would definitely give that one to Yuki.
True, but what do you think he'd get arrested for? Because I'm just trying to think. Would it be getting like angry with one of his mechanics, or being unhappy at the restaurant and then walking out and not paying for the bill? Like,
I could see restaurant. I could see messing with his food, and he's not happy, and send his food back several times, and it comes back and it's still not good. So I could see him getting upset with that. Yeah, I
yeah.
definitely Yuki.
Oh gosh. Okay. Great choice. Great choice. And I like the reasoning too. Right. The next one is right, Crystal. So again, you do the amazing work for the Instagram channel. You're making amazing content and like all sorts of content, which I think is going to go down amazing with obviously well, firstly of all, the Team LH family. Put them in there first, but of course as
Yeah.
well, all the fans across the world. New people getting into the sport, and for your sake, Netflix. Netflix have
Ooh.
seen the channel. They love the
Mhm.
work you do. They sit
Mhm.
down with you and say that they want to have a talk, about
Mhm.
potentially commissioning you to
Mhm.
direct a Netflix documentary exploring the upbringing of one of the drivers on the grid. Who would you go
Oh
for?
no! I already gave my answer for the hot apple.
It was a good answer though, Crystal. So you could be forgiven for
Oh,
that. But
all right. So outside of who's even left? Like, I don't know. Outside of Lewis for a documentary, you saying? Who would I be interested in learning more about or participating in more about? You know what? I don't know how exciting it would be initially, but I do like his story and I like his style. I like his calm. I would give it to Jean. That would be
Joe on you.
intriguing. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting. Again, we got to
Yeah.
bear in mind that what Zhou Guanyu's doing is really phenomenal. He's come into F1. He settled really well against like a driver in the likes of Valtteri Bottas, which we know is a really fast driver. Bear in mind as
Mm-hmm.
well the significance of Zhou Guanyu in the sport is he's the first Chinese driver ever to race in Formula One. So he's
Yep.
carrying and flying the flag so proudly. He's got a really unique and bespoke fashion sense as well, which I want
Yep.
to say is probably inspired by Lewis, but we'll give him that, and
He
just
does, but he
generally
said it.
speaking.
He actually said
Mhm.
it himself too. But and I mean he's putting himself out there as a future fashion icon or trying, getting up to that level. So I would find that intriguing to watch and be a part of. Absolutely.
So true. And then, you know what? I mean, I think I was a bit harsh to say you could only pick Lewis for one of these. So we'll kind of talk into this as well then, like Crystal. Like, what would be the significance of making a documentary about Lewis? And, me and but kind of explaining it
Hmm.
to the audience as well. Like, what would be the significance of doing a documentary about him, and what particular assets about Lewis's career or even upbringing would you try and kind of like capture, in this really thrilling documentary you'd make?
Okay. Um, for Lewis, I think it would be if you listen to, and we have probably listened to a lot of his interviews where it's a lot of the same thing about his upbringing, about being bullied, about lack of diversity and what he's doing for the sport as a whole, and we hear that a lot. But I think for me, the interesting thing will always be the behind the scenes, the day to day, the what does it take to get into the mindset of a Formula One driver, like right before you get on the grid. I want to see those moments. I want to see the moments where, he's with his team and he's having a heartfelt conversation of either being thankful or even upset. Because sometimes he has to uphold such an image externally that, you know, he may have to hold back sometimes, because if he becomes angry or if says the wrong word, unfortunately he could be deemed like the angry black man, and that is a real thing. And so he has made it so that what we see all the time and the stories that he tells about his upbringing, they're pretty consistent and it hasn't changed. But I want to see a little bit more. I want that honest approach of what he thinks on a daily basis, like not a post-race interview. I want to see what happens when he gets in the car to go back home. I want to see what happens when he gets on the phone and something didn't go right, or he's doing a deal and he's dealing with new businesses and he's meeting kids and inspiring people along the way. I want to see their interactions and how they feel about that. I love that stuff. And so to have that, display and show in real time and in terms of how he actually is experiencing it, that would interest me.
Absolutely there, Crystal. And I love the way you articulated that as well, because I think, like you mentioned too, there's just so many facets of his career. Also, you mentioned like Lewis is obviously known for his success, but there are lots of times where things don't go the right way, or times where people, it's not just him, people around him
Right.
have let him down, or not done right by him. And as an athlete, how do you overcome those kind of trickier moments where things aren't going your way, and finding the resilience, finding the kind of like comfort to try and come back? And I think, like you mentioned too, just having an environment where he could be completely open and it would be a safe space for him to unpack and to go through all of these things, I think would be really insightful. I don't think that there's many other kind of things you could do to kind of get that insight. And like you mentioned too, there's so many facets of his life, like his interactions even with Roscoe, or when he's on the road with Angela at his physiotherapy, or
Yeah.
or even
Yeah.
just like the thing that touches me a lot as well, and what reminds me of like Lewis and his dad, is the relationship I have with my dad, and the way that my dad kind of brought me up with like a kind of like tough love approach, but at the same
Mhm.
time saying to me, that everything you want in life, you're gonna have to work 10 times harder for it, no matter what, and nothing's gonna be given to you. You're gonna have to go out there and prove to people time and time again, whether you like it, whether you don't, whether you get kicked, or whether you need to be, like picking yourself up, that you gotta go for it, and those moments, I think, more than anything, I think, have defined Lewis, have kind of like molded him into the unique individual he is, and is what makes him, I think, to a lot of people, quite relatable. People sometimes only see the glitz and glamour and him kind of like, like living his life, but what
Right.
people don't realize is that it's years of sacrifices. And even when he was at McLaren, he was in the youth academy program for them, and Ron Dennis just basically said, you need to win every single junior category. If you don't win them, you're not driving my cars. And
Right.
that must be like so stressful, even for like a 14-year-old, to know that if you make one mistake, if you don't win races, if you don't try and be successful, your whole career, all the investment that his father had made when he remortgaged the house and did all these things that parents do when they're trying to sacrifice and give their kids a better opportunity, how that would have turned out if it didn't go the right way. So you're right,
Yeah.
Crystal. There's just so many different levels you could look at the story, and you can almost like, I guess, like visualize it in that regard too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that it's that transparency that you kind of look for. We already feel connected, in certain levels, but that transparency of seeing even more behind the scenes and how everyone has their days and everyone has their moments, which is why I really appreciated the Vanity Fair article and how open he was. And it was just especially when he was discussing everything that happened at the end of last year and what he went through after that. That, to me, that just spoke volumes about the human side. And that's the side I always try to gravitate to understand people. So absolutely.
It's so true, Crystal. And like you said as well, like there's just so many ways in which we relate to it, as humans, and just in our daily lives, and taking the sort of stuff that he's been through, and then I guess almost like reapplying it into our own lives. It can be so inspirational, and kind of give us that direction as well when things don't always go the right way. So it's so true. And to move on to the next question, Crystal, because what I want to do is not only use this opportunity to big you up, but also this our amazing community and family too. You know, I want to put forward this question. Imagine, Total Wolf, he comes to the end of the year and he says, you know what? I'm good. I've had a decent time with Mercedes. I've had some really amazing times with Lewis, some amazing times with Nikki. Rest in peace, Nikki Lauda. Even
Hmm.
with obviously Roscoe, coming into the pits and being like, Bono's replacement from time to time. But I'm done. And you know, as kind of as I move to the side, I elect Crystal Brooklyn to be the new team principal of Mercedes AMG Petronas F1 team. So Crystal, with a great job comes a great responsibility, as I
Yeah.
paraphrase that so I don't get sued by Marvel. um, you're the head of the Mercedes F1 team, and you have to pick a head of technical. You have to
Yep.
pick a podcast platform that are gonna handle social media. We're gonna exclude ourselves from, stripping the dipping from that. And you're gonna pick two people just from the whole Team LH community to be driver performance coaches. So when I say driver performance coaches, I just mean like people that are going to sit down with Lewis or George, for example, and just give them that coaching and reassurance. And even when things don't go right, they're going to be there to kind of support them and give them that uplift in just like support and guidance. And whilst I say that as well, huge shout out to Lewis Nation, Uncle Shaka, Juliana
Yes.
Sanchez, Nili, Gita, Naomi, literally everybody from the community. They're the
Yes.
greatest family. They are the amazing, amazing people. But yeah, Crystal, I'll throw it back to you. Team principal, you got to pick a head of technical. You got to pick well, obviously like a podcast to handle social media, and two people from the Team LH community. To basically be by your side whilst you are helping Lewis go back for greatness in the W14 next season. Who you picking?
Okay. All right. So technical, I would I would put Geeta. Well, yeah. Is that what we're doing? The entire like social media aspect, or just the
Yeah,
two
yeah,
people?
absolutely.
Okay. Technical, I would put Geeta, and the reason why for Geeta is she's a genius. She is so smart and so knowledgeable of things that are happening behind the scenes and in terms of engineering and so forth. And I really appreciate her her insights. And we actually watch the races together a lot, and she's the one who like, what happened, what did what did he say, and she would be the one breaking it down to us constantly. So I would put Geeta as head of technical. For social I would put, let me come back to social because I'm kind of in the mix of that. And
Mhm.
for performance coach, you mentioned Shaka. I think Shaka's energy is incredible. Shaka will like tell a banana to peel itself, and it would probably do it so happy. He just has like such an amazing energy and ability to push. So I would put Shaka as part of that, and then I don't know if you're familiar with Sam as well. Sam is one of the calmest people on the planet, and as a performance coach and somebody who is uplifting and motivating, I don't think I know anybody else who would fill that role, wholeheartedly open-minded, and really get someone going throughout the day. So back to social. Social, I'm on the fence. It's either going to be Nilly, or I would put Sumi as social.
Hey, Sumi's a mate, and shout out to Sumi as well. Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well we've got the F1 diversity group on I forgot it now. It eludes me. Discord, which is great as well. And I know Sumi was one of the main people pushing for that, and there's some amazing
Yeah.
people in that space too. So yeah, honorable shout out to Sumi as well. Amazing choice there, as well, Crystal. And is there anyone else that you wanted to kind of mention in terms of a community or anything? Anybody else you think would be a good fit for any of the criteria we mentioned?
Yeah. So my girl Nilly, 100%. Nilly is a is a true supporter. She has so much love in her, such a big heart, and she doesn't play. She doesn't hold back her. She doesn't hold back her words. you know Nelly. She doesn't mince words, and I appreciate that wholeheartedly. So I would put her in also as performance coach. So people are just too nice, she would whip them into shape.
Oh, I could imagine. You know, with Neely Crystal, she'll be there just banging up the desk like Toto Wolf. Like Bose would probably be looking like, should we reconsider this
Headphones
sponsorship
broken.
deal?
Headphones
Exactly. Need like an
absolutely.
endless supply of like noise cancelling headphones for Neely, bless her. No, great shout. And also shout out to Neely as well. Amazing. She's always
Yeah.
there. She's so supportive. And again, one of the true legends of our community as well. So great, great, great kind of picks there too. Right, Crystal, another interactive question for you.
Okay.
So, setting the scene again, So you've done your Netflix documentary on Joe Guan Yu and on Lewis Hamilton. I'm very pleased to say, Crystal, as always with you, it's been really successful. It's gone down very successfully with the Asian and Chinese market in relation to Zhou Guan Yu, in relation to Lewis Hamilton. Like, it was so amazing that one, like literally, Georgina was crying. So that's one, because it was just so emotional and breathtaking. But two, there's loads of people now that are gonna get like nominated for BAFTAs and stuff like that. So we got money. We eating good here at Team LH.
Okay.
So the proposition is, Crystal, is that because of your success, the statesman of New York says to you that he wants you to be the chair of a New York GP. Because there's going to be a race in New York. And
Yep.
basically, as you are going to be the organizer of this event, Crystal, I want you to pick a company to be the title sponsor for the entire Grand Prix. It could be a local business. It could be just a business you think would be really cool for this kind of experience, and well, obviously, once in a lifetime opportunity as well. I also want you to pick a singer. I want you to pick your favorite singer to sing the national anthem. Personally, I'm putting Mary J. Blige inside there. Shout out Mary if you're there, give me a call. And
Okay, Mary.
and also I want you to pick a celebrity to hand out the trophy. So probably not gonna pick Shaquille O'Neal this week because again that guy is just too tall and he makes Lewis seem so short. So yeah, probably not gonna pick Shaquille O'Neal for this one. But yeah,
Oh,
to recap, basically, title sponsor, singer you'd like to sing the national anthem, and a celebrity to hand out the trophies. Who you gonna pick?
okay. You got me. On the title sponsor for a company, I'd have to think on that one. That one's not an easy one because there's so many amazing companies deserve that space and that would be amazing, especially in New York for that opportunity. So let me think on that one. For a singer, you said Mary. I'm obsessed with Mary. That's my girl. I'll take that all day. And for someone handing out the awards, because I'm still in that world of with music, handing out the trophy completely makes no sense. But I would put in either Kendrick Lamar or J. Cole.
That would be pretty cool. That'd be a really special moment there, Crystal. And great choices as well, Kendrick again, like he's also known and generally like respected as one of the greatest lyricists and greatest rappers of this modern generation. So to have him come out and do the podium and to have that kind of interaction with him and Lewis would be cool. But also J. Cole as well. J. Cole's more cool and more kind of laid back. And I think him and Lewis' energy on the podium would be really interesting to see as well. So either or choices I think would be really great. And even
But
could
wait,
you imagine if someone
wait,
like maybe Jay-Z went as well?
wait, that's what I was gonna say. Let me stop. What am I doing? Like
You
I'm
gotta pick
talking about New
both.
York. I'm talking about like, and literally as you was repeating it back to me, I said, "What am I doing?" Like my first choice forever in a day would always be Jay Z, but in terms of like my favorite rappers at the moment, it's always going to be Kendrick and Cole. But absolutely, it's New York. How can I do that? It's absolutely Jay Z. Let's rewind that. It is Jay Z, Jay Z, Jay Z. It is definitely Mary and again, I don't have a company. I don't have a company that I would put out there right now. I'm still trying to think of something off the top of my head. But yeah, absolutely. That is Jay
Oh.
Z. What was I doing? What was I doing? You stop me,
You've
then you
redeemed
let me
yourself
go
there.
on. Yeah,
You redeemed yourself, Crystal. You'll be glad to know they're not going to take away your New York citizenship today.
I was like, wait. Yeah,
Oh,
no.
real empire state of mind. But song references aside, let's talk about another state, which is Texas, because
Mm,
you went to Texas to go and watch the Circuit of the America Grand Prix at this recent weekend that passed as well. How was that experience, And can you tell us about who you went with? What did you make of the race? I know that you were behind the scenes as well in the garages. Tell us more about it, Crystal, because it looked really phenomenal as an event.
It was. It was my first Grand Prix. I would say, hands down, I would definitely attend again, and I would recommend it for others to attend as well. In terms of it, I didn't have any expectations, right? So this is how I work. I don't go into things expecting it to be a certain way. I would just take the opportunity and let it flow as it needs to be, because whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Because if you over prepare, which is fine, I'm prepared for everything, but if you over your expectations too high and it doesn't get met, you get disappointed. But with this one, I had the time of my life, which is why my voice sounds the way it does. My voice is raspy. I'm straining right now because I yelled every day I was there. I got there Wednesday. I had an amazing evening on Wednesday where I got to meet the Merck team and like the engineers and the publicist. It was just the PR. It was PR. It was just an amazing night that was set up by someone else. And it was a surprise, and I had one of the best nights ever, and it just solidified why Mercedes are the way that they are to me. I remember I felt bad when I left. Like, there was races, especially like I think it was at Zandvoort, where I'm like, they don't deserve Lewis, they don't deserve Lewis. But I realized when he keeps saying my team, it's because support him. And the same way that you get that vibe from him, it's that same vibe that they give off. They truly care. These people give up their life, and they're on the road with him 200 days out of the year, or however many days they travel. So the heart is there, and it's such an amazing thing, and it was a beautiful thing to start the weekend off with. So I'll say that much. Thursday was the track walk. Yeah, track walk on media day. And that was incredible. We had the amazing opportunity to be selected. I'm sorry about the horns in the background. This is true Brooklyn right now, okay? I just want to let you know.
Yeah, it's
You're going to
okay.
hear horns. You're going to hear ambulance. You're going to hear my neighbors downstairs playing his racing game. You're going to hear my neighbors above me vacuuming. So welcome to Brooklyn. But anyway, the Thursday's track walk was absolutely incredible. We got to get close to the garage, and then surprised with George when he came up on his scooter. Got to take a moment with that and take a picture with George, which was cool. Just it was something I didn't anticipate, but the fact that it happened and I got as close as I could to my driver's garage, to that W13, I will say it's actually really beautiful in person. All of the cars are very pretty in person. And I have a newfound appreciation for how it appears in person as opposed to on TV. But so that itself was incredible. I had the best time with that. Friday was the fan forum. Was it the fan forum on Friday? No, Saturday was the fan forum. Don't ask me. I'm losing track of days now. But it was just overall an amazing experience. The sight, the sounds. I was in two different places throughout the race. I had podium club seats that I purchased, which was turn 20. So you got to see the cars as they got to slow, and as right as they going like towards the straight, like past the start and the finish line. That was an incredible space to be in, as well as experiencing it from the main grandstand. So being at the main grandstand, honestly, across from the Mercedes garage, that's why my voice is going, because you're yelling as if Lewis is going to hear you over the sounds of cars going past you 200 miles an hour, but you still yell anyway. But the feeling that you get sitting in that seat, because they're going top speed down the straight, and you just feel it. You feel it in your soul. It is so incredible. The sounds are incredible. The feelings are incredible, and it was exciting. It was exciting to be a part of, and I would absolutely go back and recommend Coda to anyone. There was other things that can be planned, I guess, better when, especially if you go as a group. But we were able to meet up. I went with Nelly, Geetha, Naomi, we met with Juliana, the whole Lewis Nation, Shaka, Chris, and who else did we go with? Roxy. There was just it was Bryson as well. Bryson was part. It was just such an amazing thing. And there was other people I wished to meet with. Either they were on a different side of the track. We just didn't get a chance to connect. I know Wolfpack was there. He was lucky. He got into like full day access for the weekend, like at the McLaren garage. So we weren't able to interact or meet up at all. But just knowing that he was there, I was so happy that a lot of people got to experience this for the first time. We got to meet Sean, who is one of the sweetest guys on the planet on Twitter. He's so quiet on Twitter, but in person, truly have a heart of gold. And it's just overall, it's just really a great experience. Just meeting people. The race itself was incredible. It was exciting. And we lucked up on amazing weather. We had about, I don't know how the temperatures they said could get into 100 earlier in the summer. So we had like in an 80 degrees. It was very comfortable, very breezy. You heard Max complain a lot about the wind the whole time. On race day, he kept complaining the wind was too much in his car, but it was very windy. I will say that much. So all in all, it all lined up, and it was the best weekend I've had in a very long time. Very long time.
Oh, we're so happy to hear that, Crystal. And again, just I like that we can listen to you and get these experiences as well, because it's almost as if I'm living vicariously through you, with these experiences and the people that you went with as well, and the access as well that well, fans again as well with the experience of going there, seeing the cars in person. How different they look compared to how they look on TV too, and the interaction with George would have been pretty funny as well. I imagine with him and his
Oh my
scooter and
gosh. Yeah.
just generally, and even the shout again to my uncle Shaka. I saw a video of him just like dancing away to some music, and everybody seeming like they have a good time, and that's how it should be. You
Yeah.
referenced this something that happened at Zanvo, which I don't want to give too much light to because those orange
Yeah.
rats don't really deserve it. But
Nope.
like the
Not
way that
even
we
no
do
drop of shine.
it,
No shine on that
exactly.
side.
Exactly, but the way we do it, in Silverstone, the way we do it, in America too, whether it's Miami or whether it's, in Kota, and well, hopefully next year in Las Vegas too. Although I think Georgina's gonna have to, start upping my payments of Ben and Jerry's ice
Oh.
cream to to get to that one. But we'll discuss that one off air. But no, like just to kind of know this like how amazing it is and everybody coming together to experience it in that way as well. It's so heartwarming, even from this side of the pond in London, just to hear that you guys have had such an amazing time because you fully deserve it. And again, just before we go as well, Crystal, how close were we? We were just laps
Oh
away from getting
God.
that W. Laps away.
It felt so real. It felt so real. We just
Mhm.
I think everyone felt it was this could have been it and this was it. But at the end of the day, P2, I'll take that because this man drove his heart out. He put his all into a car that just is you never know what you're going to get from it, right? So the fact that he pushed it and he really did all he could with what he had, it was incredible. Even like the pit stops made sense at some point, but I would take it. I'll take it. Let me just tell you, if there would have been a win, oh my gosh, there would have
Oof.
been tears. It would have been tears. There would have been people jumping onto the track, lifting up seats. I don't know. It would have just been total chaos, and it would have been happiness. And oh my gosh, yeah. There was moments. There was moments you get a little misty eyed thinking about what could have been or what you thought was going to be. But I accept whatever happened, and it was P2. Gladly take that, and we'll see what we're going to get before the end of the year.
Oh, absolutely there, Chris. And like they always say too, like it's always darkest before dawn. And sometimes it has to get a bit rough before it gets smooth. And I know with Lewis, the thing I really commend about his mentality this year is we all know he's not in a championship winning car. I don't think the W13 is gonna go in any nice part of the Mercedes garage once it gets retired from this season. But
Yeah,
even still, the resilience, the leadership Lewis has shown with obviously him taking a younger teammate this season too, taking basically all the baggage of the experimental like
hmm
setups and stuff like that too, and also this his mentality. Most people finish in second place and they'll mope about it, or they'll get kind of a bit disenchanted if they had an opportunity to win and they don't. But even after the race, Lewis is so complimentary of the fans, the people who had spent their hard-earned cash and money to come there
yeah,
and to see him and to support him and the team. and just generally as well, talking about the atmosphere. And honestly, I was sitting here with my girlfriend just watching it, and it's like, wow, like this is a vibe. This is actually a really, really incredible vibe. So, if that's just how it is from just even just our perspective, thousands of miles across the pond on a TV, you can only imagine what it's like in the person, in the flesh, just with just how awesome, he is and how awesome we are as a community as well.
Yeah, one thing I will say about the races that make it difficult, you honestly have no clue what's happening unless you're getting feedback from someone else. So like during the race, my husband was texting me all the different things that was happening.
Mm.
Unless you are like tuned in or locked into ESPN or Sky and you're listening to the broadcast, it's really hard to catch up and keep in touch with what's happening in real time. Watching the screens and everything is fine, but without the additional commentary, it does make it difficult. But with all of that, it still was an amazing race. It still was exciting to be a part of. I think it was outside of like Silverstone, one of my favorite races this year because that excitement of what could have been and what was almost happening really translated throughout the entire space. And the crowd was good too. I didn't have any expectations on other team supporters and so forth, and there was no difficulty. The crowd was a really good mix and a really good crowd to be a part of. Was no fear or anything crazy happening like you hear at other tracks and other locations. So that was a bonus as well.
Absolutely, there, Chris. So that's how it should be. In this day and age as well, people should be able to go to Grand Prix. Women should be able to go to Grand Prix without being
Yep.
sexually harassed or people
Yep.
racially discriminated or people, like assaulted. Like we live in a time and place where people should be better than that. And I'm really happy as well because it is the South, that even then in
Yeah.
that context, people were on their best behavior as far as I could
Yeah.
see or hear. I haven't heard anything negative, and that everybody was able to have a good time, regardless of the result, because that's
Yep.
what it comes down to at the end of the day. And as long as we can have that experience, that's just, I think, one of the amazing things which will keep us going, keep us, wanting to go back there in future years, and this the spectacle and the experience becoming even better and greater as time goes on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, go in, you're thinking, oh, it's things could happen, all the what could happen. But being that none of it did, and you went in and everyone had pretty much had the love of sport and, wanting to be there just to experience it, it translated across the board. So it was a good experience overall.
That's amazing, Crystal. Well, guys, I'm sad because that actually is, well, us coming towards the end of this episode. But Crystal, like before we go, are there any interesting projects or anything you have like lined up for us that you want us to know, or any sneak previews we can get insight to? Please, for the love of God, tell our listeners where they can subscribe and follow you as well. Because what I will say, and I want people to take this in as well, Crystal is a really amazing and exemplary individual. Honestly, she's one
Oh,
of the most true, most sincere, most honest, most just like supportive people I know within like the whole Twitter space, whole F1 community. And just the interactions we've had together as well have been amazing, and that's kind of why as well you're the godmother of my car, so it kind of makes sense,
yes.
godmother of
Yes.
my first AMG. But honestly, like the time and this, the kind of interactions and just the kind of support and love that you show as well, Crystal, don't think that it doesn't go unnoticed. We all see it, we all admire it, we all here for it, we all love it. And it's even for me, on days where I don't really feel 100%. Because even me, I'm like, people say, "Oh, you're Mr. Happy, you're Mr. Positive." Like, what could ever
Yeah.
upset you? But like Crystal said, we're human. So
You're
even for
human. Yeah.
me, sometimes I go on to Instagram, I look at the Team LH NYC page, and I just find that inspiration. I find that
Oh, thank
purpose. I find that like just that desire. And I just have to be so thankful to you, for all the amazing work that you've done and support, and just generally the this all the interactions and everything that you do, Crystal. Like we're so appreciative to you. But I'll hand it over to you, like yes, anything we can look forward to. And for everybody at the back there, just so they can hear us, where can they engage? Where can they follow you on Twitter, on Instagram, and all the other projects that you're working on?
Absolutely. So thank you so much, first of all. I love all of that. It's so positive. I try to remain positive. even though it could be difficult some days. Like you said, we're human. But I mainly stay on Instagram with my Team LH NYC. So it's Instagram and / Team LH NYC. There's a lot of interactions. I definitely do a lot of updates and stories daily. I like I like memes and gifs, so I'm notorious for putting that out there in responses to people, and it really it helps make the expression possible when you're interacting with people. I do hope to be able to um, see Lewis again. He's going to be at a forum coming up um, next week, so I'm working on hopefully being able to have a moment if possible, but if not, then so be it. I still will try my best to attend. It's an amazing forum with Pharrell, and he'll be speaking on a panel with that. Well, not the panel, he is the panel if you think about it. So that's something I'm actually looking forward to, and we'll see if, could say hi again. And actually, this time, be able to say, how are you? Ask him back, how are you? Because that bugged me that I didn't get the opportunity. Like the man goes, how you doing? In my head for like a month, I'm like, I did not ask him, how is he doing? I did not ask him, how's he doing? Because you want that kindness to be reciprocated. So hopefully I get a chance to ask that, how are you doing? But yeah, in general, hopefully moving on to YouTube and other things in the future. It's just really right now mostly on Instagram, on Twitter. I do have a TMLH page, but I don't really put anything out on it. But I'm mostly on Twitter as Crystal Brooklyn, BKLYN, and that's really just more for support and the Twitter community itself. It can be a mix of people and a mix of interactions, but for the most part, I'm so thankful for the Twitter community because I've found some incredible people. I've made some real friends, and outside of what has existed, because when you make time for people and you get to know them for who they are, the love of F1 and the love of Lewis just combined, and it just makes such an amazing daily interaction with people. So I'm very thankful for that interaction and that support. And in general, I'm thankful for you guys, for you, Denz and Georgina. I so appreciate everything you do, and I'm proud of everything that you got going on. And thank you for having me be a part of this.
Anytime at all, Crystal. Honestly, like you're one of my favorites, and I say that without any kind of remorse whatsoever. Just like you're my favorite. Like I don't care if people say I'm biased. You're my favorite. But also, like. But also, yeah, just like I'm so happy and so proud of just how far the channel is coming along and the work that you do, that it's seeing, the interactions that it should, and touching the people that it needs to bless. But also as well, like Krista, I'm looking forward again to having you back onto the show at some stage too. We need to do a YouTube live, hopefully with you, with Naomi, with Neely, just the entire family, with Uncle Shaka. It'd be incredible to do, and I really look forward to that as well. So Crystal, thanks a million. We really appreciate your time and the amazing stuff you do. And guys, I'm sure you've tuned in to the end as well, so make sure that you drop a like, you subscribe, you do all the generic things that YouTubers usually tell you to do. I'm not a great YouTuber, you see, so I just go with the flow. As I always say, I'm just a normal guy from North London, so I just do things my way. But no,
Yes,
I mean,
keep saying
jokes
that,
aside.
normal guy.
Georgina's gonna roast me for this afterwards. But on that note, guys, it's been a sensational episode of the Stripping and Dipping podcast. The one, the only Crystal Brooklyn, the great inventor and mother of the Team LH NYC page. Make sure you go and show her love, and make sure you subscribe and follow those accounts too. Some really amazing content that you will absolutely love, adore, relate, maybe cry and shed a tear too, but I'll be hiding those. But yeah, this amazing stuff. Keep it up, Crystal. We love to see it. And guys, until next time on the Stripping the Dipping podcast, it's been your boy, AMG Denz, Block Nose Boy, and I'm out. Peace.